Good morning. This is Amy from Amy on the Run. Today is kind of a serious heart to heart day I want to have with you guys. This morning, when I was getting my mom ready to go out to meet the Seniors Solutions bus that comes by and picks her up every day and takes her to the senior center where she gets to visit with and enjoy her friends and participate in activities and exercise classes, which I just love for her. I usually take her out to the bus each morning and I talk to the ladies on the bus, and it's become kind of a bright spot in my day, if you will. So I always try to come up with something positive to share with them. And I look up, well, for today, I decided to look up national whatever days, national observances, global observances. And today has two significant observances, at least for me. And one of them is global observance of suicide prevention and awareness. And then the national day is National Quiet Day. And so I just thought how appropriate, maybe these two observances are, and I told the ladies on the bus, I said, as we age and we are getting older, I'm in the 50 plus age group and my mom is older than that. I'll just leave it at that. She's Meemaw, and that's who I talk about when I say, well, Meemaw always said, that's my mom. And so with my Meemaw, it's such a positive for me to have her here in my life and participate in my family because she has such a positive effect on my family. Maybe sometimes I don't tell her that. And today I wanted to make sure and tell her that, but I also wanted to share it with the ladies on the bus because we're all aging, they're all aging. And sometimes as we get older, our chemical balance gets out of control. And sometimes we just don't feel like or acknowledge that we do still contribute to society. We still contribute to the people around us. And sometimes we don't think about that, maybe because we need to improve our nutrition or maybe we're not taking our medications like we should. And so perhaps we don't have that clarity of thought. So I wanted to remind them, sometimes we don't know the effect that we have on people. But one of the bright spots in my day is getting up in the morning, getting my mom out to the bus, stepping on the bus and talking to the ladies on the bus because they just are they're just the sweetest ladies, and they act like they're so happy to see me, and it helps me start my day out on a positive note. So when I'm going out there, I try to think of or research something positive that I can share with them so that I can give them something positive back. And it's they have shared with me as of this morning that they feel like that my effect on them is positive, which I would not have thought about before. And I shared with them what a positive effect they have on me each morning, and it helps me start my day out positive. And I know I'm running on about this, but my point is that sometimes we don't know the effect that we have on people. I live over here close to a walking trail, and I see a lot of people go by in the morning when we're sitting out there waiting on the bus, and we smile at, wave at, sometimes talk to my neighbors that walk by to go down that trail. They don't realize that it's such a positive thing for me to see them walk by and say hello. And when they're not there, I notice. They might not know that. I don't always tell them that, but I notice. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I hope everything's okay with them. And I say a little prayer for those people. And it's the same thing on the bus with these ladies that are such a positive impact to me. If they're not there, I want to know they're okay. And I asked my mom, I asked Mom, is everybody okay? Is so-and-so wasn't on the bus this morning? Is she okay? What's going on with her? Put her on my prayer list. All of those things. So, when you're feeling really down, look about the people in your life that you touch every day. That Meals on Wheels lady that stops by and brings you your food. Maybe think about her. She has a volunteer job that is adding positivity to her life because you're there. You're adding positivity to her life because of that. She's adding positivity to your life because of that. Think about the clerk at the grocery store that sees you every day. They call them their regulars. And I know that's who we've become. As an older crowd, we become kind of regular in what we do. And so, when we go to the local QT or the Spinks or the Ingles, they're used to seeing us and we're not there. I'll tell you, perfect example. My mom and I go to the grocery store and we kid around a lot when we go to the store. And I guess because we do it so much, I don't really notice it anymore. But the clerks do. And I went to the store without my mom one day and the clerk said, "Where's your mom? Is she okay? What's wrong?" We don't realize because she cared about me, Ma, being there. She enjoyed that, and that was a bright spot in her life. And the same goes for you. You just don't know when your grandkids walk in the door, or your child comes home after a hard day of work, or maybe they have to take a deep breath and add positivity to the day when they get you up in the morning. But it forces them to think in that direction. So don't always think that you're useless when you don't necessarily feel like you have something to contribute. You're contributing more than you think you are. And if you're starting to feel down, tell your child, tell your grandchild, tell your doctor. You've got text messaging now. You can text message your doctor's hotline and say, "Look, I'm feeling kind of down today. Can you have a nurse call me?" And talk about it. Sometimes you need to change your vitamin regimen. Sometimes you need an extra medication. Sometimes you need to step down off of something. So just don't think that you're not important, because you are. You're very important. You just sometimes don't realize it. And the other thing is today is actually National Quiet Day. And with me running on like this, you're like, "Oh, please just be quiet. I'm so thankful." But being National Quiet Day, I looked for a positive quote that would support that. And sometimes we need to stop and think, just like I was talking about with suicide prevention. Sometimes we need to stop and actually think of the positive effect we have on people. Sometimes we need to stop and think of the positive effect God has on us. Sometimes we need to stop and say, "God, what's your plan for me?" The Bible says in Psalms 46:10, "Be still and know that I am God." In other words, be quiet and listen. Be quiet and pay attention. And sometimes in our silence, we can see God in the surroundings around us, the flowers, the people, the actions, the things going on. I was telling the ladies on the bus this morning, look at the positive impact we have on Don. Don is the bus driver. Don has a job because you need a ride. Isn't that a beautiful thing? You can be depressed because you can't drive. Or you can say, "I get to bless another person because now Don has a job because I need a ride." So I'm saying all of this to say, it's time for me to be quiet, but it's also time for you to recognize how important you are to somebody else. And it's important to me. I love my viewers. I know my team is small, but I love my viewers and they add positivity to my life. You guys don't get to see my private messages, but I do. And I get to see the positivity that they add back to my life. So this is Amy from Amy on the Run. Let's go run with positivity today.